Welcome, welcome.
Hey, oops, I was thinking it was 2 p.m. That explains why it wasn't working.
You made it, Karen. Welcome.
Yeah, I was like, what's going on? I keep registering. I can't get in. But I was early. I didn't realize it.
Very cool.
Happy Friday, everybody.
There he is, Mr. James. How are you, sir?
Very good, thanks. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. We'll start in a couple minutes here. A couple VIPs in the waiting room. Alethea says she cannot hear. She got it. She can hear us now. Can we see her? Oh, there's Mike Lee. There. That's a good group. Welcome, everybody. Karen, James, Alethea, Van. There's Mike. Welcome, Mike, as well. What a way to end Earth Week and the continuation of Earth Month. Shouldn't every day be Earth Day? Well, the folks on this team are doing that, which is awesome, awesome, awesome. Welcome. My name's Emmett Summers. I've been in solar, renewable energy, green tech for about 20 years. And I'm very honored and excited to be part of this first inaugural Surge launch of our SurgeCast series. And I'm also very honored to introduce our CEO and founder. Her name's Allie Turner, if you haven't met her yet, but I bet most of you have. And for those of you that are listening to this podcast, or maybe you're considering joining, wow. A is for amazing, and that's why her first name is Allie. And in terms of Turner, I think it's because she knows how to turn things upside down around and make things really, really awesome, which is the other A that I have for her. 6 years. In 6 years, she's been the CEO of 3 companies. Her companies. That's pretty amazing. Yes, she did graduate from the University of Chicago. I don't understand how she graduated from the University of Chicago, but that's okay. That's up to her to explain. Congratulations to the Chicago Bears for the first pick in the NFL draft last night. And she is residing and makes her home base in Iowa now. So without further ado, she also has had recently a birthday. Let's introduce the CEO of Surge. Allie, it's all yours.
Thank you, Emmett. And thanks everyone for being here. Super excited to have you. So excited about this first ever live stream. Surge is going to be really exciting. I'm really happy you're all here and wanting to be a part of it. And Emmett has been integral to this entire process. Couldn't have done it without you, Emmett. So thank you for all of your knowledge and expertise and mentorship. So
You're
a little
welcome.
bit about me. I've founded 3 companies. I started with a lead generation agency in the solar industry straight out of college. That was my first baby. Scaled that, totally burnt out, and realized that it was totally insane what we were trying to do so quickly. So transitioned that into a software platform. So it was much more consulting, strategic building of systems for our clients as opposed to running everything for them. Love that process. Best decision I ever made. And that became what is now Satva, which some of you may have dabbled in or had some experience with, which is how Emmett and I first met. He was a client of ours on Satva. He used the platform in his business, Redemption Energy, met a number of his team members and supported them in building out systems on the platform. And, he came to me and said, hey, we want to do something incredible in commercial. We want to build a platform. We want to build a movement. We want to really take off in the commercial solar market. And can you build us a tool to do this? And I said, yes, okay, let's make it happen. So that's how Surge was born. We're really excited about what we've built so far and what we have yet to achieve. Things are moving quickly. We have a lot of momentum. We're bringing in new members every week, which is very exciting. And really moving into some interesting new endeavors as well with things like community solar and bringing in finance partners, bringing in roofers. So really building a community of people who support the commercial energy market and making clean energy the new normal, which is our motto.
I think that's awesome. And all of us here help build the ecosystem, right? Because Surge, and of course, the difference between Surge and Satva we'll get to later, is infinitely scalable. And the platform adapts based on people's feedback. And the folks that are here today, more people that come into the platform, have the ability to help write that code, right? And grow it exponentially. One thing about my background in the renewable energy industry is I've done it for about 20 years. So in a way, this is my fourth startup, one of which ended up in an IPO, which was kind of cool, one of which I sold. And I thought that I'd seen everything in commercial and residential solar until I met Ali and the team. So I appreciate what you're doing here, and I appreciate all the pioneers that are on this call that are helping grow it, especially from the ground up. You know, this is an analogy, like you take a look at this little seed, right? This little seed, and it has what? The ability to grow a redwood that's a couple 100 feet high that lives for thousands of years. That's exactly what happens when you have a startup, when you have the ability to grow it from that little piece. It's got so many ingredients around it. The ingredients are us. So anybody on the call want to know something about Ali? Ask her a question about her. And then what we're going to do is you can ask me a question, and then we're going to kick into this overview of commercial. Who wants to know something about Ali?
Hi, Allie.
Hey.
It's Van. I know it's just Sleepy and Morris, but that's my wife right here. You said that your first startup was a lead generation company.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't know what this is. We just jumped on because Emma's like jump on, so we just jumped on.
Nice.
But I guess this new platform that you're building is going to be like all-in-one system that we can like leverage for outsourcing leads versus trying to find them somewhere else or working on one market?
Great question. And yes, the answer is yes. It's a marketplace platform, essentially. So what we want to do is provide a network of ambassadors, people who come across commercial leads, sales pros, people who want to qualify those leads and sell them solar, EPCs who want to receive those products and install them and carry them through to PTO, as well as other people like finance partners and roofers who can support that process, who are a part of it and obviously integral to a finished project in most cases. So yeah, absolutely. Definitely a place you can, bring your leads, get more leads, and close more deals on a larger scale.
Okay, I guess my next question seemed like,
and we're going to dig into that in a bit, Van. So we're just doing a quick one question for Ali.
okay,
So
this one, he needs to ask more.
we're going to get into, we'll give one more person another question because we're warming up here. This is good. And then Ali's going to flip it and interview me. Anybody else?
Yeah,
for
anybody
Ali?
got a question? Question for Emmett or for me?
All right, let's jump in. All right, let's talk about commercial. We're going to talk about the commercial landscape. We're going to talk about maybe some of the hot items that are out there, where to fish, how to fish, and how Surge can help you. So, Ali, it's all yours.
Awesome.
I'll shut up now.
Please don't. Please don't. We love to hear from you. So in fact, I want to ask you a couple of questions. Why is commercial solar so important right now? Why did you come to me a year ago or 6 or 8 months ago, whenever it was, and say, we want to do this. We want to build a platform in commercial.
Sure.
We want it to blow up and be a part of that movement.
That's a great question. I've been in solar for almost 20 years. And when I started back in the day, it was almost all commercial, right? Until the gobernador in California, that's my best impression, said, let's build a million roofs, right? And California created a lot of incentives to help do that in residential. So residential is really taken off with innovation in products, innovation in marketing. Now you can buy solar at the Home Depot or Costco. Now you can buy it online in a marketplace if you're residential. So why not do something like that for commercial? Why not take a platform like an Amazon platform? Why not take, like Airbnb, some kind of platform where people can get into a marketplace? People like you, if you're a developer on this call, people like you, if you're an EPC or installer on this call. We'll have finance partners and tech partners on here. Some really cool ones we got lined up this year. Put them all together and see what happens. In order for us to hit our targets, right, we have to be able to multiply the opportunity immensely, right? It can't just be a handful or a dozen big companies trying to achieve the goal. It has to be a lot of people like you, pioneers that can come out there and say, yeah, I've got an idea, I've got a project. Are there anybody that's interested in helping me develop this project? Where on the other side, if you're an installer, you could say, you know what, I've always wanted to work on these kind of projects. I wonder if anybody has them, right? And they're able to go in there and log in to Surge and say, wow, look at that. There's a vineyard in Texas, right? Just happened to be one we put in there this week. Oh, look, there's a installer in Texas, right up our alley. We just did a vineyard last year. Perfect. That's perfect matchmaking, right? So think of it that way. So commercial wise, if you want to look at the numbers, and I've got the cheat sheet on here, but I'll read the numbers that really intrigue me, excite me, in fact. In 2023, solar increased 51% year over year, all across industrial, commercial, residential, community, you name it. Residential was up 12% year over year. 12%. Commercial was up 19%. Utility was up 77%. Wow. Now that's just year over year. And by the way, last year was 32 gigawatts, which is a record for the US. Okay. So think about it. Think about that. 53% of all new generation in the US was solar. Okay, so we're in the right industry, energy. We're running out of energy. Can't even power a whole country with it, right? Good, check. All right. Solar is one of those things that can help power it. Terrific. Check. Okay, where do I need to play in solar? Well, many of you are probably playing in resi, maybe commercial, maybe community, maybe you got all three covered. Well, here's a place to work on at least the community and the commercial stuff, right? In 10 years, the market is projected to grow to 450 gigawatts. Okay, so I just said it was 32 gigawatts this year. 10 years, hopefully I'm still around. 450 gigawatts. That's another zero at the end. That's exciting to me.
Huge growth, both already and yet to come. And I think that's why we're doing what we're doing right now and why everybody is hopping on this train, because there's so much potential. There's so much more potential than we realize. And with the fluctuations in the residential market as well, I'm finding that there's a lot more stability in the commercial market. There's a lot more incentives. There's a lot more government support. I'm wondering if you can touch on that briefly in terms of policy, in terms of the grid. Why is commercial in some ways maybe more straightforward and more stable than the residential market?
Yes, absolutely. On the policy side, it's pretty obvious that the money that we're paying as taxpayers that are going to government programs to subsidize a stronger grid. And the choices that are being made by our both federally and locally elected officials are recreating a grid that basically wasn't built for solar, right? It wasn't built for batteries. It was built for coal. It was built for oil. It was built for that stuff, right? And so those policies, I personally believe, we're not going to talk politics today, are absolutely necessary to build a better infrastructure. When I grew up, you flicked a switch, and if you didn't turn it off, you know, mom would yell at you. God bless mom. She's in the other room, right? But I didn't know what happened. If I flipped the switch, where did it come from? I don't know. Was that gas? Was that oil? I didn't care, I guess, as long as the light turned on, right? So policy is really driving that. The grid is also driving that, right? Because as I had mentioned earlier, this grid that we have today was not made for renewables. But we need renewables. 53% of all new generation in the US was renewable. Solar last year. So because the grid isn't built for that, there's a lot of policy and there's a lot of subsidies that need to go. Otherwise, the grid breaks. That's really the deal. And the biggest things that have changed there are it's easier to recreate a grid around a bigger system than a smaller system. So, you know, if you have a bunch of people buying solar all over the US, you might tax this area, you might tax this area, you might, you know, stress this area, stress this area. But if you say, hey, we're opening up a new office for our distribution center, we're going to put a power plant next to it, that's a lot easier to deal with, both through policy, which has already been approved because they want to create jobs, right? And through creating a grid, microgrid within that area. Now, if you heard the name microgrid or term microgrid before, I built microgrids before. If you haven't, super cool. That's exactly what we're driving here. Because the grid can't take a new business opening up. Data centers are driving it too, right? Data centers are driving the biggest, what would you call it, stress on the system because, wow, they work 24/7, require a lot of energy. And then the last piece I'd say before we click down a little bit more, Ali, is that 15% of all solar was paired with batteries last year. 15. It's projected to be north of 30% by 2028. 30. So that's just what, 5 years away? We're going to double? So yes, I agree. It's policy and it's grid for sure. Hopefully that makes sense and provides at least one man's opinion on the problem and the solution.
Love that. Really great insights and very true. It's now is the time, I think now more than ever before. So I see that there's also obviously fluctuations amongst different verticals, different markets that could benefit from commercial or industrial scale solar. And so I want to dive a little deeper. I want to double click into what you would say the heat map looks like, because as people are joining Surge and jumping on this commercial trend, there's a lot of factors that go into their decision making. One is obviously, where are the easiest sales? Where can a multi-million-dollar project become an $80,000 decision for a business, right? Financially, due to grants and incentives. In addition to that, where can you earn the most commission? Where are these multi-million-dollar projects where you can sell one deal a year and have a huge income from just that? So there's multiple factors that go into consideration for our reps and our EPCs that are joining the platform when looking at what types of leads they want to pursue, what types of leads they want to work with.
Great question. So this is the graph that showed what I was talking about earlier in terms of growth between the blue, which is this utility, the green, which is community solar, the yellow, which is commercial, and blue, that's resi, right? In our Facebook page, and if you want to put that in the chat, if you're not a member, please join us. We have a post on this exactly. I think this is the first or second post that we had down here. In terms of what I think personally, and I've seen studying this, the best verticals are, right? It's right here. Let's see if I can get it open for you. Boom. Agriculture, absolutely number one. Right. We did 10 dairy farms last year in New York. We are leveraging the USD REAP grants. Why agriculture? Well, just like everybody needs energy, everybody needs to eat. Right. So from ranches to farms and things like that, how do you energize them? Right. You got to shift. So that's agriculture. Part of agriculture too are vineyards, breweries. There's a couple articles here on the Facebook group that show microbreweries always have, at this point, almost always have their own power plant. Why wouldn't they? Right? I'm building a new microbrewery. How do we power it? Oh, let's put some panels over here. Right? So I think agriculture to me is the place where the money is. Now remember, the other side of agriculture too is distribution and sometimes refining and the things that go with making maybe kombucha or something like that. Hope I pronounced that right. I don't drink it, sorry. Right? And dual purpose. Dual purpose agriculture is super hot. So you have maybe a ranch or a farm and you want to power it, but you also have goats on that farm. So you got to get under that structure, right? Maybe you want to plant under the ground mount. So you raise it up a little bit and you can do some greens under there too, right? Dual purpose is super, super hot right now. I'd say that would be number one. If you look at the screen, I'd say retail malls are number two. So if you look at the landscape right outside your window, if you can see a window or when you're walking around later today or you're driving around, anytime you have a parking lot without a carport, you should be going, that's mine. Anytime you have a flat roof on an apartment building or I don't know, where you go to urgent care or something like that, you go, boom, that's mine, right? So it's a real estate play. And I'm looking at Van and Delicia because I know they're from real estate. It's like, oh, so you don't have to build a new house and you don't have to sell that new house, right? You actually just got to build stuff around that. And in this case, it's commercial, so it's commercial buildings. My office, you look right over the fourth floor and you can see a carport top of a four level parking garage with panels. It should be on every single parking structure. But nobody's talking to anybody. Not enough people are talking to people about doing that stuff. So then professional single standing units, I kind of alluded to that being the same thing here in terms of retail malls. So retail and services, manufacturing and warehouse, storage, food production, anything that has refrigerators or any kind of heat that's needed to generate, for instance, glass, metal, material manufacturing. Believe it or not, if you find the right EPC, right, that knows how to do it, and you're in the right area, churches, charities, nonprofits are also important. That's kind of a unicorn. And to me, a unicorn is like a code that I want to break. I guess that's part of the engineer in me. Schools, care facilities, then auto showrooms and services. Boy, they have big bills, auto service areas. Hotels and motels, especially the franchise ones, right? Like a Best Western. And then multi-unit housing, again, real estate plays. And then last but not least, and I've done a bunch of these recreational facilities, whether it's a gym, you know, it's a complex, golf courses. I've done a couple golf courses. So this is one man's opinion. I hope it's helpful, Allie, to you and the team in terms of the heat map.
Absolutely. Super helpful. And I know everyone's taking really thorough notes on this because this is really brilliant guidance from Emmett here. And it's great too, because we're actually seeing a lot of these leads come into the platform. Even, for instance, Mike Laser, who happens to be on the call today, has put in some of these types of leads, churches, multi-unit housing, you know, dealing with different hospitality industries or retirement homes where it's a massive roof and there's a high electricity usage because there's so much going on in that one building. It can really be anything of that nature. So I just dropped something in the chat that'll help you guys out if you weren't taking notes, kind of your notes taken for you. But also I dropped the link to join the Facebook group so you can hop in there and see its value.
And I want to give Mike Laser a shout out as well. You're right at the ground floor of this. And listen, you built 3 companies. I built a couple companies too. This is going to work. And we're actually working really hard for Mike right now, huh, Ellie?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, absolutely.
Mike's name will be known as a verb, not a noun. You have to give him a nickname one day. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you, sir. So shifting from verticals, let's talk about states, right? This one's really simple. And one of the things you can see here is a lot of this data that's very easily consumable by groups like us, that can more mainstream. Can you click down if you're an expert at it and join SEIA, Solar Energy Industries Association, or maybe know somebody that's on SEIA. I'm on a couple of panels myself, but you can see that there's a rank of where the states are. And if you're interested in the state, you click on it and it'll show you exactly what the ranking is, what the growth potential is, how prices have changed. So I just happen to click on Texas. First in 2023, growth projection 40,000 megawatts, number 1 in the next 5 years. Boom. Okay. I'm going to go backwards a little bit. Actually, man, where did they go backwards or forwards here? Yeah. There's a ranking here as well in terms of the top 5 states in 2023. So believe it or not, Ohio came in at number 5. Wow. This is crazy. 1,230% year over year. Something happened there. What do you think it was? Look at that. It says agriculture. I'm not making this up, right? Agriculture and policy. Look, Colorado's back in the top 5. 10 times year over year, 22, 23. Major law, again, policy, right? World's largest solar powered steel plant. Private. Need my own power plant. Great. Welcome to Colorado, Mr. Steel Plant. How would you like to put some solar and batteries next to you? Right? Florida. It's always on top, always on top. Fifth straight year in a row. Look at that. Sunshine State, half of Florida were installed in the last 2 years. Half of Florida's residential solar systems were sold. And as part of that, there's community around it too. Florida's a big deal because of the batteries and the storage. They're really helping create a grid that says, okay, we have tough times with hurricanes and stuff. How do we make sure we're ready for them? Right? It's sad to see pictures when the hurricanes come through, the devastation. But what's interesting are the houses that are standing are the ones that have solar on them. The houses where people were able to live when they came back had their self-sufficient grid, right? Same with businesses. You got to believe if you ever run a business at scale, you have to have risk mitigation policies, right? And so that's Florida, and this is California. I'm sorry, California, and then Texas is ranked number one. Everybody knows what's going on in California, but Texas is ranked number one. That makes sense when I went back to this one over here too, right? State by state. So these resources, if you want to drop the saya.org link in the chat, Ali, that'd be great. So people can go click on these links. Or I can do it, it's up to you. And we can go from there. What's your next question? Or is it my turn?
Yeah. What do we have next up? I mean, I'm curious, obviously there are a lot of ways to get involved in commercial. And some of you, even on this call, have direct relationships with EPCs, with installers that maybe you sold a commercial project or two before. Craig, I'm looking at you as I say this. You've got those connections. So I want to ask you, Emmett, why would you personally develop a project on the Surge platform versus directly with one of the EPCs and already work with?
Yeah, until I met you and you were open-minded to work with a task force to put this together, I had my own partners, and just like Craig and probably Mike and a few other people that have done commercial here before. But I had to go to one partner for this, one partner for that, one partner for this. And one of the things I did very well and still do in my commercial business is I present options to the customer. So I had to work with 2 or 3 different developers. I had to say, okay, what about this? What about that? And then I would Shark Tank them in and tell the customer, hey, I got 2 or 3 of the best options for you. Pick one, right? That's a lot of work, right? Surge allows me to go in and just figure out how to matchmake. It automates the matchmaking, right? And to the customer, it's a wonderful experience. And now to the rep, it's like 80% less work for me, because I don't have to keep working with each of these folks. They can just get on a unifying platform. We can collaborate there and then enter that Shark Tank. That's, at least for me, what I really love about this. And I think it's going to attract a lot of sharks in a good way.
Love that. Yeah, really great answer. And thanks for sharing that. I do feel that ease of use is crucial. And that's really what we're going for with Surge, as well as, of course, the trust and the transparency, because sometimes it's a lot to try to maintain relationships with multiple EPCs. You may not have much experience with them. And, of course, there are things that happen in this industry that we want to avoid, where, you work with a company and you're waiting for your commission and it's months and months and months. And then, what happened. So the nice thing about Surge is having that transparency into what's going on, and also knowing that the EPCs on our platform are pre-vetted, they're qualified, they know what they're doing, they have many years of experience, they have all their licenses, and they're certified to be doing what you want them to do. So you have that level of authenticity and credibility going into the deal.
There are 2 other reasons why I like using Surge. Number 2, it's a supply and demand equation that folks like us can work on, right? Meaning, if we have too many leads but not enough EPCs, we can say, oh, let's go find people like this, and it helps us focus on growing the platform in the right places. I like trying to figure out that equilibrium. It's a puzzle, right? And I think that puts the seller in the middle of everything in a good way, and it also puts the EPC in the middle of everything in a good way. And then the third thing is, I really think there's a lot of people out there, and I know a few people on this call who've never sold commercial before. So how cool is it that if you're in Resi, or you're in community and you want to learn commercial, you can pop into a Surge cast like this every Friday. You can join the platform and you can learn. So that's my top 3 right now, but it might change. We'll see.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely wonderful. I see we have some questions coming in. We definitely will save time for Q&A at the end.
Okay,
so
I
don't worry
got
about that.
one more for you. Difference between SAP and Serve, which I think Van was talking about earlier, which is cool. And then I guess this is 2. What's the difference between Surge today and Surge a year from now?
Yeah, great questions. Thank you. The difference between Surge and SAPA is massive. So originally, obviously, Emmett was a part of SAPA, and that's how we met. SAPA is built as a CRM for business owners, more of a traditional CRM with multiple tools all under one roof, a very holistic process. Whereas Surge is this networking community platform for the commercial solar industry very specifically. So it's a completely different business model. And it's really built to support this level of communication, transparency, project tracking, and really facilitate the installation of more projects. At the end of the day, that's our mission. So great question. And also about, Surge today versus a year from now. As I said at the beginning of this call, there's so much potential. And my goal over the next year is to absolutely blow up the commercial industry. I want to see thousands of projects installed. I want to see thousands of people like yourselves on the platform, closing deals, earning commissions, and seeing those kilowatts and megawatts and gigawatts get installed through your work. So that's my goal for Surge. A year from now, I envision this being, at least 10 times what it is today, if not 100 times as big and as powerful. Really a movement more than a company.
So we just have to do Surge Prime or something like that. Surge Plus. Is that what we're going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and just for everybody to know, I did build this platform in a way with a different company. They were purchased and they retired the platform. So completely different IP, completely different approach. But I think most people are pretty intuitive about that. But without assuming that, I think it's time for to open it up for questions. What do you think?
Absolutely. I'm sure there's plenty of questions. Looks like we have a couple in the chat. The first one I saw, is there a recording for later on? I went ahead and answered that in the chat. Yes, there will be a recording. It'll be sent out in the weekly newsletter later this afternoon. So you'll have access to it once it's processed. What else? Yes.
Did you talk to my
can we
agent
speak
about
more?
that, by the way? I didn't know you were recording this. I'm just joking.
Yes, it is recorded. And we're going to be doing some really great stuff with the content in here because obviously Emmett's expertise in the industry is invaluable. And I want everybody to be able to benefit from that as they hop on board this movement and become a part of Surge so that they feel supported in the process and they have the resources they need to get started with their best foot forward. Next question up we have from Karen. Can we speak more to the vetting sometime, whether it's now or on this call? You asked, my impression with Surge is just taking any installer who would sign up. That is not the case. To answer that quickly, what are the criteria and what is the vetting process? So that's a really great question. Emmett, do you want to speak to the abstracts on that and what we're looking for, and then I can give the specific criteria?
All right. Let's look at the question again. I didn't have chat up. I'm sorry. Was that Karen? Karen, just go ahead and ask it yourself if you don't mind.
Yeah, I just sent that to Allie. It wasn't for everybody, but in just in case she didn't want to speak to it. But no, I was just asking, what is the criteria? I mean, obviously you can see what their ratings are and how long they've been in business, but I just was wondering, if there's an EPC out there and they want to sign up and they want to start subscribing, but their reviews are terrible. Are you going to turn them away? Like, what are you doing to actually make sure? Because that's like really important to me. If I'm putting, it's one thing if I work with another company that I, on the residential side that I really know their quality or, whatever, their customer service, but like, I don't know these companies, at least not yet, or
So
maybe some of them I do.
A couple things
So,
here, and then Ellie can paint the picture on the other part of this answer. Great question. So we have a silent partner that helped us launch this late last year. Was it alpha, whatever you call it, beta? We're in beta now. No, we're launched, right? But anyway, he has a great experience in the commercial side of the construction, the EPC world. And basically, he's helped us determine the criteria around who comes in. I mean, there's absolutely an application process and exactly the things that most people will think about. The other thing is there's a rating process. So when they come in, you have transparency to see who that EPC is, and you can see their profile. It's almost like your Uber driver, right? How many stars, how many trips, that type of thing. Ali, you want to add to that? You're on mute.
Yeah,
There you go.
absolutely. So a couple of things that we require from our users when they join is we of course need to see their solar and or electrical license. We need to make sure that they're licensed to do what they claim to do. That's baseline. We also require OSHA 10 or 30 certification as well as a NABCEP certificate if possible. We will sometimes waive the NABCEP certificate if they have over 5 years of experience in the industry. And we see that they're having, really successful projects, great customer reviews, really strong portfolio, because obviously that is something that takes a little bit more time. In fact, I spoke to an EPC just a couple of weeks ago who, he's like, it's been on my to-do list forever. I just need to sit down and do it. But they have hundreds of projects under their belt. So they're a really great fit. Electrical journeyman certifications, as well as general liability insurance policy. We require 1 million per accident with 2 million aggregate. Not to get into the weeds too much, but we do have certain baseline requirements for our APCs. We also go through more of you could say like a soft skills vetting process. We want to talk to the company, make sure that they're a good fit, that they're going to work well with the people on our platform. We scope out their website, we scope out their reviews, we look at anything we can, Google reviews, Yelp reviews, Facebook reviews, just the testimonials posted on their website. We'll look at their projects, if they have happy homeowners speaking on their YouTube channel, on their social media. We really just vet as much as we can for successful projects being installed and happy customers who have had a great experience with the company.
Cool. Thanks,
Thank
Karen.
Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Great question.
We
Yeah,
also
thanks for
need to
asking.
make sure that they can weight lift more than R. Craig Bloom, Mr. Maryland, 1990. James, are you in the queue? Who's next?
Yes, I have a question. I have two questions actually, guys. This is fantastic. I'm really excited about it. What have you found to be like the main reservations or questions when you go to these companies or misinformation that they have? What might hold them back at first?
Are you speaking about the EPCs or about the companies looking at getting solar?
I should say the companies that are getting solar.
Yeah, great question. I think, Emmett, do you want to touch on that briefly?
In terms of commercial customers?
Yeah,
It's just you don't know how to sell, basically. I mean, it's like you have to come in and have a guiding coalition with you. You have to do a proper needs analysis. You actually do a pre-site survey. What I've found is that either one, you're talking to the wrong person, or maybe you don't understand how to develop a project, right? You have to get to the right people, which means the C-level. You have to create a business case and feasibility study, right? And then you need to put a group of people together to meet their group of people, typically the person who started it. So that might be you, James, right? Typically an engineer or sales engineer. And then whatever group of people you need to close the deal. So probably a finance person, almost 90% of the time I've seen that and brought that person with me as well. So it's less about does it make sense? Because the feasibility study is going to tell you that, right? It's have you done it before? And if you haven't, do you want to learn it the hard way or do you want to learn it with a bunch of people that have done it before? Great question.
That makes sense. Yeah, because I'm
Thanks.
thinking like you're gonna look and say, oh, how much is it gonna cost me? A
Yep.
little bit similar to Resi, but
Yeah,
see.
it's also case studies, and that's one of the reasons why we vet our EPCs very well. I mean, the guy that's our silent partner, he's pretty much says no, 90% of the stuff we send to him, right, Ali? Why? I can't sell that, or that doesn't make sense, right? But if it does make sense, then yeah, I've got a case study. Boom. Would you like to be like Pebble Beach, right? Would you like to be like Harris Casino, 100% green, right? How would you like to be, et cetera, right? So when we pick our strategies, and this is the advice and hopefully some of the value add to Serge as an executive advisor, it's helping educate people, helping them come up with their plans, right? And I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, because in Monterey County,
Yep.
they're actually right now debating it. And I think a lot of the guys that is so much
Mhm.
information. You know, they're worried about what's going to happen to the land and
Right.
farmers and
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the things about solar that most people don't know, and this is a future sneak peek of a topic, is the community solar. It's real estate, right? So we'll teach you guys how to work on that. Where basically you're having an opportunity to develop a solar farm, right, on unused land, or sometimes underused land, like a car or over a parking lot. One of the things I want to shout out, especially to our Craig Bloom, is that one of the opportunities for you to do here is bring your own EPC, right? Talk to your EPC. If you're already working with somebody in Resi and they do commercial, what should you do next? Say, hey, how would you like to do more commercial? And send them our way. We'll vet them. And the benefit to you is what, Ali? If they bring them on board, a lot of benefits, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When you sponsor a new user on our platform, a new member of the community, you'll earn rev share on all of their deals, regardless of whether or not you were part of the deal in the first place. So we really want this to grow as a result of community building. And that's why we encourage everybody to, bring their EPC, bring other reps, bring your team on board, because there are massive benefits to you financially, but of course, also just the benefit of helping grow this movement and get more projects installed through Surge.
She says that in such an aw shucks way, but basically that's the program I'm on, right? Is rev share, right? So let me rewind a little bit. If you bring in, or when you bring in an install partner, maybe you're already working with them in commercial, maybe you're already working with them in Resi, then you get a rev share. And that's why we do personal. Actually, I love this about Ali is that she does every single one of these by herself, not by herself, but she's at the center of this conversation. Sometimes other people come in, but that's really cool, isn't it? Rev share for taking somebody you're already working with and saying, come on in over here, helps them, helps you. That's cool.
Huge. Huge.
Is that the only speech you're going to give, Craig? Or Craig?
That's it. That's
That's
it. One word.
Huge.
Huge.
I'm going to pump you up, man.
No, this is
All
great.
right, Mike
This is
Laser had a
terrific.
question. Any EPCs willing to scoop up Arizona jobs? SRP's tough. Yeah. Mike, we've got a couple EPCs. SRP is tough right now for sure. Just stay on me and Ali, brother. We're going to work on that for you. Thank you. I do have two particularly that I use all the time, but one's at capacity. And Mike, thanks again, man, for loading this up. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Mike is a really great example. I know we shouted you out in the newsletter last week, Mike, and we appreciate all the work you're doing with the platform. It's really great to see. And for some of you who are newer to commercial and just, asking these questions, like, how do I approach somebody? In fact, Mike, I don't want to put you on the spot now, but, if you're willing to share what you did to get these, you put in 4 or 5 deals in the matter of a week, right? Because you were out there doing the work. So if you would be open to sharing either now or, through our resources, on the platform, that would be really, really great and helpful for everybody else.
Yeah, do you want me to speak to that right now, or?
If you're willing, that would be awesome. We'd really appreciate it for people who are just getting started.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'm working in the best utility. It feels like I'm not. I'm in SRP. I live here in SRP, and I probably ought to take some trips across town over to APS. But I'll walk into a church or a nonprofit or something, and I'll ask who should I talk to about being a good steward of your electricity bills? And I get there right away, and it's not uncommon for me to walk out with at least January, June, and July electric bills right off the bat, immediately, and then I'll send it to you from there. That's all I've done. That's all I have done, and I put 4 of them in your guys' system as kind of like a test drive, to be honest, and I want to see it work. And I'll triple my production here in no time if I can find some EPCs that are willing to scoop these up.
Well done, sir. Appreciate it. Like I said, laser's not just a noun, it's a verb. Yes. One of the things about working commercials, figure out where you want to work. If Mike wants to work churches and nonprofits, and our pipeline gets bigger and bigger on churches and nonprofits, it's easier for us to attract the attention of an EPC. If it's just one church, you might be lucky if it's just SRP Arizona. But if we start stacking church jobs, right, that funnel gets bigger and all of a sudden goes, One of the EPCs goes, I want to do all those churches. I don't care where they are. We'll figure out a way. We'll sub if we need to. See how that flexibility and that whole supply and demand elasticity thing works here? And I would just also urge people to understand, if you haven't sold commercial before, it is a longer sales cycle. It totally is, right? And so like in the case of churches, which I've sold a bunch of churches before, great, you got the utility bills. Let me walk you through this process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work with people in a platform, and I'm going to try to shop your design, engineering, and economics around. Give me a month. I'll get back to you. It's not like give me a day like in Resi, or give me a week and I'll get back to you. If you have your own company. With the platform, it takes a couple weeks. Good thing if you're the first person to talk to them, right? Because they don't know. Sure, you want it now. And I'm not trying to coach Mike, because he's probably a pro. I don't know him directly. But that's how you set the stage. Let me walk you through this. So in a month, I'm going to shop it around. I'm going to get back to you. Hopefully I got a couple people I can show you that are interested, right? After that, they're going to actually get with you directly through me, right? That's the process.
Yeah, I don't
And-
make any promises except for a feasibility study. Like,
Perfect.
let me get back to you and see what we can do for you to inflation proof your future here.
That's awesome. So awesome. This guy's going to rock it. Probably going to be either number one or number two. I know the other guys are busy right now, gals, but thank you, Mike. You're awesome. Ali, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing, Mike. I really appreciate you piping up and sharing, because the thing is, you make it very simple. Like you said, you just go in, you've got a couple of talking points, you get the bill, you walk out with the bill. And that's really impressive. And it goes to show you how simple this can be when you choose a market, you choose your language, and you just go for it. You just boots on the ground, walk into these places and build that relationship. So really well done, Mike. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure it's helpful for everybody else that's here.
One of the things I know that's on our roadmap, and Austin and you and I met the other day, Ali, is to show you the heat map. Would you like that? Would you like us to show you a heat map saying, hey, we've got EPCs that want work here, and EPCs to say, oh, we got a lot of projects over here, right? Just show you a very visual heat map. Wouldn't that be cool? Oh, there, that's a thumbs up from Mike. It's good.
Yeah, we're building
All right.
that out.
You take your feedback seriously, right?
Mhm.
Before we kind of wrap this up, is there any advice you want to give folks in terms of if you're on the platform, and then any advice to people who are considering joining our platform? And if you could put the link up there on chat, that'd be great too.
Yeah, great question. And actually, I'm definitely gonna turn this question around on you as well, because I'd love to hear your answer to it. But my advice would be go out, build those relationships like what Mike's doing. Like I said, he put in 4 or 5 deals in a week. He got the bills, he plugged them in. It's really that simple. Like he said, he just put them into search, right? And now we're building those relationships with EPCs. You know, I would say the biggest thing is don't overthink it, right? Don't overthink the process. Just get your boots on the ground, get those relationships built. Go back to people you might know personally, right? Maybe you have friends, maybe you have family, maybe you worked in a different industry for many years. Like for instance, James, I know you worked in hospitality IT, right? So you've got relationships in hospitality, which is a really great vertical to target for commercial solar.
Yep.
That would be my advice is don't be afraid to go out and just make those connections. It can't hurt you to try. It can't hurt you to basically offer something that could change somebody's future. Emmett, what about
Absolutely.
you?
If I'm our Craig Bloom, the hardest working man in residential solar, I'm doing events every day, right? Now I have another thing to pitch. Right? Do you know a business? When I was a director at Dell, we always required our reps to ask when we were selling personal computers, who's your business? And we would have a competition all the time about, hey, where's the business card? I mean, we would literally look at the end of the day to see how many people collected business cards. This was old school. I'm dating myself in the 90s, right? The other thing I'd say, you know, if James is a CrossFit guy, just go after CrossFit. You're there anyway every day, maybe twice a day sometimes. You got competitions, you got events. So wherever you are already, just make it happen. Do you have to take your kid to daycare? Go sell that daycare. You sell one daycare, you go, hey, I sold one daycare. You want it, you want it, you want it. And it's a domino. It really is. And how easy is it that you don't have to do anything but just drop it in the platform, right? And watch it sell. Cool. I think that wraps it up. Ali, any last words and maybe a sneak preview of next week?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day and being a part of this movement. We're really building something huge here, and you're some of the founding members. So it's just so exciting to see you all here. We do have more events. We're going to have an event every single week, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time on Fridays. That's 1:30 Central, 12:30 Mountain, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. So hopefully you can make it. You'll get reminders. You'll see it in the newsletter. The recording of this call will go out after the fact, so you can review it. You'll see it in the email. Just go back to anything that interested you. And then next week, we're going to talk about the differences between 2023 and 2024 in the solar market with a special guest yet to be named, which is super exciting. But Emmett and I will be here on next week's call as well, as always.